My garden unfolds every year in the same way. The exact date blooms appear changes, but each type of plant opens one after the other in sequence. Catmint, Nepeta ficini, the purple haze you see in the Camperdown tree circle, is the first to bloom. It's a favorite of the bees. The red dianthus cahori overwintered in an unheated greenhouse. It blooms a bit later in the ground. The orange poppy in the background, Jim's poppy, blooms right next to the three Physocarpus oplifolius coppertina ninebarks. They make a nice contrast. This year I decided to use a Morden Sunrise rose in my wine barrels. They are planted pot in pot, a plastic inner and a wooden wine barrel outer. They will stay in the plastic pot for years, wintering over in place. Below are 3 pots of yellow calabroca planted with Glamour euphorbia, a white frothy thing that looks perfect with roses. The Japanese lilac tree, Syringa reticulata, which blooms white, is almost ready to bloom. It is also a bee favorite. Next to the Morden Sunrise roses is a semi-dwarf cherry tree, Prunus cerasus Evans Bali. This is in pot as well and overwintered in place beautifully. This is Jim's poppy, so named for the dear friend who gave it to me in 1973. It's unusual in that it never makes seed, but spreads by underground rhizomes. The bees do not visit it, as there is very little pollen produced. It does not have a black blotch coming out from the center, and has only 4 large, brilliant orange petals, very different from the double row in oriental poppies. The white round blooms are an ornamental onion bulb, Allium caratavinese, I think that's right, Ivory Queen. These are planted in the fall. The hosta-like leaves are so unusual for an allium. After the caratavinese comes another of my very favorite alliums, Allium christophi. These are also fall-planted bulbs, but also reseed prolifically. The dried flowers and stems make great wands for the princesses in your life. This is Miss Bassett's farm rose that was brought to New Mexico in 1907. I was given starts in 1975. It blooms once a year and does not produce red hips. This purple beauty, Hesperus matronalis, also called Dame's Rocket, is a perennial and a biennial. The first year comes foliage, second year is flowering. They reseed easily wherever it is kept wet. This is a hawthorn tree, Crataegus viridis, named Winter King. They bloom after the crabapples. It's beautiful in all seasons, with beautiful fall color and red berries that the birds love to eat during winter. This tree is 7 years old. This is woolly Veronica, Veronica pectinata. I used it to create a river walk of blue on each side of the pathway. I saw this done at Keukenhof Garden in Amsterdam using grape hyacinth bulbs, and I wanted something that would not have to die back like a bulb. It's tough, hardy, and rabbits don't eat it. Plus, it's beautiful. This is Erodium menescavi, or the Menescau heronsbill, native to the Pyrenees Mountains of France. It blooms from now until fall, when deadheaded weekly. This is another wild yellow rose, but this one has tiny leaves and light yellow single-petal 1-inch blooms. It was given to me by a marvelous gardener who now lives in Alaska. It has taken 3 winters to finally bloom. This is a yellowhorn tree, or a Chinese flowering chestnut. Xanthoceras sorbifolium grows in the Gobi Desert. We obtained this tree from Mr. John Lawyer, owner of Lawyer Nursery, who went out of business in 2018. For years we sold this company's unusual tree and shrub offerings. We sold this shrub to many people at the East Mountains, and I would love to know if any have survived. Please let me know. This is another variety of hawthorn tree, Crataegus lavagata, crimson cloud, or English hawthorn. Ricky calls it his Dr. Seuss tree because of its unrestrained wonkiness. Here it contrasts nicely with the dwarf globe blue spruce, Picea pungens globosa. This bright little beauty is called a snowdrop anemone, Anemone sylvestris. It's a great ground cover plant. It's another invasive wherever it rains. It does spread in my garden, but so slowly it's a joy. Here it is with hellebores and Stachys officinalis. This is a shrub clematis, Clematis integrifolia, also known as Mongolian bells. Ricky grew them for me from seed. One blooms white and one blooming purple. The leaves seem like they have come together in prayer, then open up to reveal a clematis-like bloom. These are the New Mexico native primrose, Oenothera neomexicana. We get to see them only when it rains. This is dwarf mahonia, Berberis aquifolium repens. It is a native of New Mexico. These beautiful yellow flowers are followed by dark blue berries that the birds enjoy. This is my favorite biennial, named Salvia silver sage, or Salvia argentea. The giant leaves are the attraction the first year it is planted. The second year, the leaves recede and a giant bouquet of stalks with white blossoms blooms. These then drop seed to make the new crop of next year's giant leaves. This is a baby plant. The leaves get to be a foot long, and it is as soft as it looks. Here is the 4-square formal area. It has dwarf alpine currants as the hedge, with the rose named Above and Beyond, climbing up the 6-foot fence surround. Later in June, I'll show you what the rose looks like in full bloom.